neighbor, welcome back to 7 on Easter Sunday. I left one piece of candy somewhere in your house, and now you're gonna spend the rest of the video wondering how I got access to your bunny basket. But that's not important. What is important is me counting down 7 songs I love from artists that I generally really don't like at all. I did a variation of this a few years ago, and there's a card on screen now if you'd like to see me break down and compliment songs by Skillet, Lifehouse, and Simple Plan. Part 2 is gonna capture a wider variety of music, and not just the easy targets you'd probably expect. I wanted to do this as a challenge to myself. Can I, John from ARTV, find the good seeds among the bad, as a reminder that even the artists that I don't like, can't get into, or straight up dislike are still capable of dropping quality material. Buckle up, slap that fucking like button harder than a punching bag in Mike Tyson's gym, and let the praising of the unpraiseworthy begin.
I found the connector. It's just a reflector. It's just a reflector.
I've pretty much always found Arcade Fire dull, borderline pretentious, and extremely overrated. Yeah, I've heard all of the critics shitting gold bricks about them since their Grammy win for Album of the Year a decade ago, but I absolutely never got roped in, and unless this is a band that only people in their 30s get, I'm not sure if I'll be riding that musical horse into a sunset happily ever after. Of course, there are songs that reach a level where I think the love is justified, and one of those happens to be the title track Reflector from their 2013 album. Between this and the follow-up record Everything Now, it felt like a lot of the former diehards were starting to miss the old days, but meanwhile, I'm the odd man out, shrugging my shoulders all sheepishly like, this is actually starting to work for me? Let's not get too off topic. I know Reflector is still pretty universally acclaimed, especially the song itself, but that doesn't stop it from being phenomenal. The influence of David Bowie is articulated in such a mesmerizing manner, I can't help but fall into its trance. Both of their main vocalists kill it with their call and response duality. The band's artistic arrangements make this feel right at home for the entire 7-minute run, and better than anything else, Bowie himself cut vocals on the track. Choppy guitars sharpen the mood to an even spacier degree, calling in some additional orchestration that just sounds so fascinating and groovable. It's extremely well written lyrically too, even if I'm not entirely sure what it's about. I definitely get a feeling of fear. But one last thing, can we please shout out that production? Take Marcus Drabs and James Murphy from LCD Sound System and let them produce a disco song for Arcade Fire? It's absolute madness, but I love it.
You want me to forget you? I can't forget me too. You tell me you hate me, baby.
Not much setup required for this one. I don't like Machine Gun Kelly much at all. I think he's a mediocre rapper, a weak lyricist, and a bad genre hopper that thinks he's hot shit. I'm not on board for most of what he's throwing down, but there was one major hit from his pop punk album that eventually broke through to my heart, and it's probably not for reasons you'd expect. When I first reviewed the record, I was pretty critical of this song's flow, Halsey's feature, and the lack of chemistry in their voices. Her voice is so much higher than what I was used to, and I thought that Halsey sounded rough throughout my first 5 to 10 listens, but what do you fucking know, I started to remember other pop punk songs that use this weird dichotomy to their advantage, and now that I think about it, their lack of vocal chemistry is actually a huge selling point on Forget Me Too. Without a doubt, MGK is not the biggest reason this song comes together so well. He is very much still a part of the good. He deserves credit because the first chorus still slaps big time with him singing over the bouncy power chords, and also, maybe he can't replicate this live, but damn do those guitars scratch an itch for the kind of great upbeat pop punk that we just don't get enough of now. Travis Barker also needs a shout out for the drum work. I really like how he handles the energy, and Halsey nails her verse and adds a shit ton to those harmonies on the final chorus or two, which is really what sold me on the track. It's an absolute banger that shows both perspectives in a crumbling relationship without forgetting to keep it catchy, driven, and entertaining.
It's so easy, anyone can trampoline, so jumping off the nukes.
I was convinced Kero Bonito were gonna be right up my alley after being introduced to their bright, almost silly bop Trampoline at a live event I did in late 2019. The song is a total earworm, plus it really feels like an escape from reality where the only thing that matters is not forgetting to bounce. Synth pop, indie pop, and dance rock are some of the most common genre identifiers they get, and I'm a fan of pretty much all of that stuff, so I had high expectations going in considering how much I did love that first taste. Trampoline must have satisfied satisfied some very specific niche in my heart because I just haven't gotten into anything else, not even the newer material that aims for a more direct and mature style. By no means are they a bad band. I don't have anything awful to say. I'm not gonna tear them apart. I'm just very, very, very indifferent on what this British band do. Nothing really made me swoon like Trampoline. I just love the dumb, gleeful energy that lights up like a kid's commercial on crack. Bounce, bounce, bounce! That whole section, along with those tantalizing synths, is great. The song puts you in a great mood and knocks you around in the back of your head all day long, although I will warn you, you might get some strange looks if you're out and about singing to yourself about bouncing on a trampoline. Hoobastank! Doesn't saying that name out loud feel a bit like casting a spell? Like you're about to summon the evil spirit of the early 2000s into your screen, and then Doug Rob's voice is just blasting out? Scary stuff, guys. You gotta be careful what you click for. You might just get run over by a nostalgia train you didn't ask for. It happened to me too, except not all of my memories were bad. When I was a kid, I did love hearing their songs in video game soundtracks like MX Unleashed. I grabbed up a few of their CDs from the library, and I'm not proud of this, but I did burn them all to my computer during my Hooba phase, trademark pending, but I snapped out of that permanently by the time I was out of high school. God, they're just so whiny and soulless and empty. The radio rock filler gets even more apparent if you dare to look past the singles. It's like they put up 4 walls and hoped we wouldn't notice that there was nothing inside. Sorry to burst your hubba hooba bubble, boys, but we knew just from looking at the 4 walls that there was nothing noteworthy inside. But to lay off the criticism for just a moment, some of those exterior singles weren't all that bad. So for the sake of this list, I want to highlight If I Were You. Nostalgia is such a weird beast, and I say that because I'm pretty sure I just like the song as a song, but at the same time, would I like it if I were introduced to it today instead of it being permanently tethered to 2006? Who knows, but If I Were You is a solid chiming cut that asked the question, could you be a little bit more grateful for what you have? Cheesy but uplifting vibes still hit the right way even now, and I appreciate the way they flipped a scolding message inside out to make it sound like you were giving advice to a child that still has a lot to learn. The intro kinda sounds like a music box, and that always made me smile. Maybe that's just me, but I definitely think If I Were You was one of Hoobastank's best.
From the second time around, the only love I ever found, oh Angela.
Ever since the indie folk boom of the early 2010s, I've had a strong disdain for most of the big crossover acts that played constantly on a loop for years. The Lumineers rose from the ashes of that movement and made a lasting name for themselves, but it all started with a little nuisance you'll probably know right away. I'm along with you, I'm along with me, For the sake of fairness, I've always checked out their albums to see if things were better, and they generally are. They're just not the kind of band I find interesting. Why bother at all is what half of my brain screams, but the other half reminds me of how strong they can be, with the almighty Angela being the gold standard. See, I liked this song and called it a favorite when I reviewed Cleopatra all the way back in 2016, but I just didn't come back to that album ever, and it quickly faded from my mind given the amount of music I do consume. A few years later, the song resurfaced when my fiance's cousin posted a cover of Angela to Instagram, and I thought it was really beautiful, but it was also a great reminder to go back and check out the original. I loved it all over again, and I've played the song consistently since then. It's one of those rare tunes I want to listen to just a few times in a row to really get the feeling and absorb everything, the sentiment and the storytelling. The light guitar makes your chest flutter as you lean closer to take in the imagery. The guitars are so clean, quiet, and steady, and they add a somber backbone to a heartfelt song that definitely made me reconsider skipping town on their future projects. From the Volvo lights cutting through the dark to the exit signs on your way out of a place you never really loved, this is an emotional song with a lot of great themes that always seem to find a way to make me tear up.
I'm on the wrong side of heaven, and the righteous side of hell.
Ivan Moody and his squad of unruly cavemen have an easy target on them after what some might call a decade of destruction. Don't boo me! It's the only joke the Death Punch fans are gonna understand. Being a fan of Five Finger Death Punch and watching this channel has to be frustrating. I mean, year after year, watching me tear apart their unholy malfeasance in the court of public opinion, I know it's a lot! but let's not pretend that I'm actually that far off base with my general assessment of their macho douche monster energy chug-a-lugga breakdown machine. They weren't always this bad, and it's really starting to feel like a Limp Bizkit situation where I don't hate the playing style of the band all the time, but the lead singer just can't help himself from shitting the bed over and over again. When are you gonna learn, Ivan? Like I said though, it wasn't always this way, and I think Ivan Moody can be a solid singer if he finds the right kind of hard rock that suits him, including the slow-burning ballads, which he's proved he can crush. I narrowed down the playing field and picked out Wrong Side of Heaven from their two-part album series in 2013. It reeks of their now infamous Support the Troops persona, but it also proves that this wasn't always a bad or overtly political thing. Bringing awareness to the plight of homeless veterans, shedding light on the soldiers who battle PTSD even after leaving the battlefield, these are both pretty noble pursuits, and the band did a great job at making this feel strong, but also vulnerable. I love the guitar solo on this track, the drumming is really good, I like the build and the suspense in the verses, and every time that chorus rolls around, I can't resist singing along at the top of my lungs.
Funny the way it is, if you think about it. Somebody's going hungry, someone else is eating out. Funny the way it is.
Dave Matthews Band exist. They are a band, they play music with strings and horns and whimsical vocals, they put out lots of records and play lots of shows. Is your scanner detecting a pattern yet? It shouldn't, because they're so damn unordinary, they just fly under the radar every single time undetected. Jam bands have never made much sense to me, and I fully admit my bias against them. It's like music for people who just need background noise to talk over as their group of bucket hat wearing middle-aged friends stand around and talk about the other times they saw DMB live. It's not like the entire band sucks and can't play their parts, because obviously they've won over millions of fans somehow. I just think you've got to be a very specific type of music personality to actually get into Dave Matthews Band. Out of the lineup of yawns and misfires I passed over, let me point an arrow straight at the 2009 single Funny the Way It Is as the biggest example I can think of for a song I love by a band that I definitely do not like. The fast cut music video for this played a lot on the channel Fuse that summer, and I warmed up to it pretty quickly, which was surprising even to younger me. I definitely wasn't a fan of DMB then either. It's a simple enough concept for a song. Take two worlds and smash them together and weigh out the differences to result in this kind of ironic observational style of writing. I really like how this song's chorus has an evolving style. I made an entire episode of SOS on changing choruses, and that definitely could have been on there. The first two were almost entirely different, and I love the lyrics, somebody's broken heart becomes your favorite song, and then the final chorus of the song takes the first two and kind of swirls them together with some lush instrumentation going in the background. This is a really nice, well-written tune from Dave Matthews Band, and while I'll never fully understand their appeal, Funny the Way It Is works on nearly every single level. Another episode of SOS and the Tank Neighbors. Thanks for watching me rag on these artists I don't like while also praising a song I love by them. It only takes a microsecond to turn that like button blue, so please hit that on your way out and subscribe for the love of music. My socials are all stuffed in the link tree in the description if you want to give me a follow, and much love goes out to everyone supporting the content on Patreon.